This is a game where you collect bees, pollen, and turn it into honey. But what if you turned all the bees into ducks? That's the game I've been working on. Duck Clusters. I started by making the ducks move. And yeah, the duck was just a block. But don't worry, I improved the model and it was looking much better. I even added animations to them, like walking and flying. And after collecting wheat, you would use this blender to turn it into bread. Now with the ducks mainly done, I decided to work on the map. I made this simple layout and added a bunch of fields. Well, more like just parts. Now to hatch ducks, we need eggs, and to get eggs, we need an inventory. So I got it working after a while, and I know the UI looks pretty bad. I improved it later on. So instead of a hive, I decided to make a nest. And when you hatch ducks, the eggs will spawn on a slot and there will be a floating hologram to show the type of duck. Or so I thought. Everything that you just saw was in the previous 2 devlogs I made on this game. But for this episode, I scratched this whole idea and decided to make something more unique. A pond. I've been working on this for the past 1 to 2 hours. And honestly, I think it's way better than the nest. When you put items in it, there's an outline. So if we grab, let's say 2 of these ducks, there should be an outline. So the next step was to make the ducks actually swim in the pond. So the way it's gonna work now is, I guess you can hatch eggs anywhere. And I'm gonna have a menu where you can manage the ducks. And when you go in this zone right here, they'll just go over and start swimming around, I guess. And it does kind of work. But things get messed up once you try to convert. And this is where I realized things were getting really messy. And I could keep going like this, but in the future I'm gonna face a lot of problems if I keep this system. So I need to revamp the whole thing, and I'll see you in a few days, I guess. This is not gonna be fun. So it's been a while, for me at least. But I've changed the system a lot, and now it works much better. And the ducks also have speeds now. So that's another thing that I can do for the abilities. And now when you go in this zone, which is basically your plot, the ducks will go over to the pond and just start swimming around. And when you go to the blender and click on this button, they'll all fly over to you and start converting. And I also made it so you can cancel the process if you click it again. And they'll just fly back to the pond. And the right button just converts everything into bread. So that all works now. And since the plot is pretty big, I'm thinking of actually making the map like a circular kind of shape, so I can have like 5 or 6 plots in a semicircle shape, instead of just in a straight line. Now although you could hatch ducks and everything works properly, there was no way to manage them. And what I mean by that is feeding them, or replacing them, or anything like that. So I asked you guys in my Discord server how you want me to do this, and most of you voted for a UI menu, but I found something better than that. What I chose to make is this duck board over here. So when you go to your inventory and hatch an egg, it shows up a slot, and the duck obviously starts swimming around. If you go over here and click on this, you can see it shows the info about the duck. Well, right now it's only the name, but I'm planning to add a description as well, and maybe levels in the future, but for now it's just this. And you can hatch multiple ducks, and of course the color of the background depends on the rarity of the duck. So with this board, first of all, for the eggs, you can use them anywhere. So even if you're outside your base, you can still hatch eggs. And you can also drag it on top of one of the slots to replace a specific duck. Now for re-rolling your ducks, you can't use this anywhere, and it says can only be used at the duck board, because obviously you need to replace one of them. So you just drag your mouse over it and you replace one of the ducks. We got a nerdy duck. I still haven't made a hatching animation. Maybe I'll just make it show the info of the duck, but I'm not too sure yet. So the board might look something like this, and you can see the color changes for each duck, and I really like how it shows the model as well, and it's spinning. Now I'm not sure how many ducks you can have at max, maybe 50 like Bee Swarm, or something around that at least. So someone who watched my video sent me this, and I'm not sure what to say about it, but I kinda like it. Long neck duck. And of course, I had to add this. So, I don't have an image for it yet, but if we click on this, introducing the... Yeah, the name is pretty silly, but if we go over here, this is what the model looks like. And let me just bring it outside. You can see it follow me. And yes, it does have feet. You just can barely see them. And it looks really funny when it flies. So as you saw earlier, I barely worked on the map and I only had one plot. So that's what I've been working on for a while now. And I'm thinking of having it like this, sort of like a semicircle. And we have 6 plots. So the starting field will be here. Then it goes upwards into the second field, which I recently made. And this is an oat field. So it's pretty similar to the wheat field, but it gives a 5% wheat multiplier. So I'm probably gonna have a starting shop somewhere like here maybe. And I'm gonna have walls around this area and a bunch of other stuff. I'm still not too sure where I'm going with this, kind of just making what I can come up with. So speaking of shops, I actually started working on one. Obviously it's gonna be much bigger than this, but I just tried making the system. So when I click on this, it tweens your camera here, and this is where all the tools are gonna be that you can buy. And there's also this sign, which you can play around with, I guess, just for fun. And yeah, this is what it's gonna be like. So another thing I forgot to mention is that I've decided to completely remove the player's backpack. And what this means for the player is when you're farming in a field, you can pretty much farm infinitely. But when you come over here, you can only put a certain amount of wheat into the blender before you need to press this button to turn it into bread and do the same thing again. So the only problem with this is you can just fully AFK farming in a field. And to fix that, I want to come up with a way where you have to do something in the field, kind of like how Bee Swarm makes you collect tokens. But I haven't thought of anything yet, because I want to make something different. So now the players fully have to focus on getting better weapons. And I'm gonna try to make it so that it's difficult to get them, at least in endgame, and you actually need to farm a lot. So I guess what's next is to just continue working on the map, like the starting area and the top of the mountain place. There's also the shop, which I actually need to get working and make some other tools. And yeah. And then the last thing would just be the quest system. And after that, the game will probably be fully playable and I can finally release it for you guys. Obviously, I'm still gonna add a lot more stuff, but I just want to get the basics of the game down so you guys can play it.